I feel like when it comes to the fear of being perceived, most people would just say, just don't care what people think about you. But I think it's a lot more complex. There's a lot more layers to it than people make it out to be. Hi, my name's Anissa. If you're new here, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys how to get over your fear of being perceived. Without further ado, let's get right into today's video. So before we really hop into the tips, I really want to give some examples of what having the fear of being perceived may look like. Signs and examples can look like being a people pleaser, you're afraid to be seen, you prefer to kind of like not take up space and you make yourself small around others. You're afraid to be your most authentic self, you're afraid to creatively express yourself in front of others, you take things really personally, and you don't have a strong sense of self. So those are some examples of having the fear of being perceived may look like. It's pretty much catering your life and making yourself small so you can be more easily digestible for other people. Okay, so now let's get right into the tips of how you can get over your fear of being perceived. So the first thing to do is to learn and understand human psychology and human behavior. So learning exactly how the human mind works and how it operates has been the biggest thing for me to understand just human perception. As you guys know, that we're all brought into this life with different experiences. We're all raised differently, so we all have different sets of morals and values and beliefs that we were brought up into from our surrounding environment. Not only that, but just different childhood traumas and insecurities that we all kind of experienced that we also got attached to us throughout life as well too. And so with all these different experiences and environments and things playing a part into who we are as an adult today, that plays a big part in how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others. So understanding that we're all brought up differently, everyone's going to perceive you in a certain way according to their own limiting beliefs. Like what I believe in, someone else may not believe in, but because we were both brought up differently, our minds are going to perceive something completely different than how we were made up to be. So when it comes to each individual's mind and what their beliefs are, they're going to project what their perception of certain things in their life. That can relate to you, that can relate to the world and how it's set up, but it's always going to be projection based on how they perceive things. For example, if you grew up with parents who taught you that all people who were rich and who had money was evil, then you're going to pretty much have a perception of every person you come across that is wealthy. You're going to perceive them as not being a good person because of how you were originally brought up, right? And this is especially true when it comes to like having haters, like understanding they're projecting onto you their own insecurities and how they feel about themselves. Understanding that we are all mirrors to each other is going to really help you understand that you're just showing people how they already feel about themselves. So it's never really about you. Like if someone has a lack of confidence in themselves and showing up as their authentic selves, they might project onto someone else who doesn't have a problem with being seen and showing up. They're going to show hate to that person based off their own perception of themselves. It's really always about each individual and how they perceive themselves. Like people only judge you because they judge themselves. People only feel insecure, try to make you feel insecure because they are insecure themselves. So yeah, just getting to that mindset of like being logical about like people think a certain way is going to help you not take things so personally, because you're going to understand that it's not really about you. So once you understand why people do the things that they do, how they move a certain way, it's going to be a lot more easier for you to get over your fear of being perceived, because you're going to understand that it's not really personal and it's not really about you. It's just how that person was brought up and how they were raised and how they kind of move through life through their own individual lens. So it's like what other people think about you and how they perceive you is honestly none of your business, because at the end of the day, it's not really about you, it's about that individual. So once you really fully digest that and understand that, it will be a lot more easier to get over your fear of being perceived. So the next thing to help you get over your fear of being perceived is to not take things personally. So again, this kind of relates to my first point of like 90% of the time, people are way too focused about themselves and not really you. People are mostly self-centered and focused upon what they want for themselves and their own lives. So people aren't really paying attention that much to you. And if they are paying attention to you in a sense of perceiving you, it's still really about that person. It's never really about you. So learning something so personally is going to be really beneficial for you to get over your fear of being perceived, because you know at the end of the day that no one's really thinking about you the way that you think that they are. And like I said, if they are, it's always going to be projection. It's always going to be perception of what they inherently believe in their own brains. Like I said, like what people think is literally none of your business. It is none of your business. Like it's that simple. Do you remember the last 10 videos you saw when you were scrolling on TikTok? No one remembers because people are too concerned with what they already have going on in their own world and in their own life. So even like really embarrassing moments that you may have in the past or in the future, like no one really remembers it besides you, you know? So it's like really understanding to not take things super personally is what's going to help you also get over your fear of being perceived. The next thing to do to get over your fear of being perceived is to develop a strong sense of self. So this all ties back into just having confidence and having a good understanding of who you are as a person, to the point what anyone will say about you or how they treat you or how they, perceive you. Again, it's none of your business because you know who you are, right? If you know you're a good person, but someone perceives you as not as a good person because their own limiting beliefs and their own personal issues, that has nothing to do with you, right? It still has to do with that person and how they were brought up and how they believe certain things. But I think developing a strong sense of self is going to really assure you to not internalize what people say about you and how they perceive you, because you know deep down inside who you are. Like, there's no one who has walked in your shoes. There's no one who has spent every single day of their lives with you besides you. So no one can really tell you about yourself. And that doesn't always mean that you can't take constructive criticism, but it just means that like you're the one who had your experiences. You're the one who's been day in and day out with yourself. So you should know yourself the most compared to anybody. So whatever anybody says to you should be able to bounce right off, because you already built a core foundation of who you are, and what everyone else says doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, like, you're happy with you, you're proud of you, you know exactly who you are, and if you don't have a strong sense of self, a couple of tips to help you develop that is to spend some alone time with yourself, to read affirmations, just really spending some time with yourself, like spending some quality time with yourself, to sit down and reflect and understand who you are to your core. That means understanding your weaknesses, your strengths, your flaws, your insecurities, your upbringing. Like, all these things are going to play into who you are as a person. That way, when people try to like project onto you something that you're not, it's not going to really bother you, because at the end of the day, like, you worked on developing that strong sense of self for yourself. Honestly, when you're someone who has that confidence and you stand strong into that, even if there's rumors spread about you or this, that, or the other, your reputation and the way that you carry yourself in any situation, it's going to speak way louder than maybe like rumors or other people's perceptions of you, because at the end of the day, like, you carry yourself to a certain degree and you know who you are deep down inside. The next thing that you're going to do to get over your fear of being perceived is exposure therapy. You guys may have heard it before, but if you haven't, exposure therapy is pretty much showing yourself in situations that terrify you in order to work on that muscle of getting over that fear. That's really the best way to get over your fear, is to just simply exist into that fear. So it's like, once you've done the fear, you're gonna leave it being like, oh, it wasn't even that bad, It's pretty much putting yourself in a situation to where you may be perceived by others and it's very scary. But once you get over that fear, you're gonna come out on the other side of it being a lot more stronger and a lot more confident that you accomplish that fear. And just getting used to that muscle of being perceived is ultimately what's going to help you get rid of that fear overall. And doing that repeatedly, constantly getting out of your comfort zone, is going to have that fear in the back of your head, or that voice. Each time you do that, fear is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And once you overcome that fear is going to dwindle away so small to the point where it's going to be part of your new normal to be perceived, and you're not going to be as scared as before. Like, if you have a fear of public speaking, the only way to get over that fear of public speaking is to simply do public speaking. Or if your fear is to post on social media and be seen creating videos or creating content, the only way to get over that fear is to just simply start posting. And once you get over that first time of doing it, you're gonna be like, wow, it wasn't even that serious. Like, it really wasn't even that serious. So constantly exposing yourself to scary scenarios and scary situations is what's gonna help you overall work on that fear of being perceived. The last thing to do to get over your fear of being perceived is just acceptance. I think it's important to know that no matter how you operate in your life, you're going to be perceived, whether good or bad. So whether it's you playing small and keeping yourself small, people may still perceive you. So it's like, you might as well just do whatever you want, honestly. You might as well live your life for yourself and not for anybody else. So it's like asking yourself, would you rather be perceived being yourself and showing up as your most authentic self, or would you rather be perceived playing small and not taking up any space? So accepting that no matter what you do, you have no control of how you're going to be perceived by other people. It gives you so much more freedom to just live your life for yourself and not really care what other people think. I think for me, constantly remembering how I want my last moments to feel like I don't want to be looking back on my life in regret. All I did was live my life for others and not really for myself, because of my fear of being perceived. I feel like once you change your fear of being perceived to your fear of not living out to your fullest potential, I don't want my fear of perception to hold me back from achieving my blessings, achieving whatever, all the things that life has for me. And again, I feel like once you kind of switch those fears around of the fear of being perceived over to the fear of not living to your fullest potential, it will kind of push you to understand what is most important to you. And this sounds morbid, but it's like, we're all going to die at the end of the day. When it comes to those last moments that you have for yourself, the only opinion that is going to matter in that last moment is going to be yours. It's going to be those questions that you had of, did I take a risk? Did I get outside of my comfort zone? Did I express myself? Did I love people that I wanted to love? We all deserve to be seen and valued and loved, and we shouldn't let outside noise stop us from experiencing those things, and we shouldn't let outside opinions and perceptions stop us from receiving the blessings that life has to offer for us. And that is the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for another video next week. Bye!